Morning, good morning. This is Tammy Pope, your host of the Virtuous Businesswoman Motivational Broadcast. I am excited to be here with you today. So, hello. To those who are listening on Blog Talk Radio, those who are listening or watching on Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, and later on, hey, YouTube. I'm going to dive right in because I do not want to go over my time today. And I want to ask you a very simple question. Do you see yourself as a franchise? And I know y'all are probably wondering, wait, what? Here is why I say that. Think about the word franchise and what it means. If I asked you to name a franchise, you would hit me with Nike, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, companies that have been around and stood the test of time for years. Then I says, okay, well, give me a person that is a franchise. And you may say, well, Tammy, businesses are franchises, but not people. I beg to differ. Have you ever heard of Michael Jordan, LeBron James, John Cena? Franchises. These are human beings whose brand is them and everything about them. Each one of us, as a God created human being, is a franchise. So there are 12, and I hope to get through them all in one show. 12 things that I want you to understand about the human franchise. And before anybody asks me this question, yes, it is a book. Yes, it's new. Yes, it's on Amazon. Okay, I answered everybody's questions. So the first thing that I want to say is that a franchise sees itself as such. One of my favorite movies is The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And in one of the scenes in the movie, the Invisible Man is worried when they find out that someone is trying to recreate them for evil. And the Invisible Man says, any more like me, and I'll lose the franchise. That's something that I say jokingly, but most people come to understand what I mean. So getting back to my original question, do you see yourself as a franchise? Allow me to answer that question. Nope, you don't. Because when you look at yourself, you see the parent, the spouse, the employee, the son, the daughter, the sibling, the niece, the nephew. You see yourself by the labels that life has on you. You see yourself according to the expectations that somebody else has of you. So you feel like those roles and those expectations have to be fulfilled first. Not necessarily. There are three things that I want you to understand here in seeing yourself as a franchise. One, you've got to learn to see yourself past the roles that you have in your life and realize that you are a unique, singular individual. That can be difficult to do, but the job or the career that you have, that's only one part of you. The roles that you fulfill in your family, that's only one part of you. The labels that you live under, that's only one part of you. And I know sometimes you may be like me and you sit back and you say, man, how much different would my life be if they just gave me a chance to show who I am and what I can do? The second thing in being a franchise is having a solid and a stable support system. You have to watch who you have around you. Everybody that is able to invest in you doesn't need necessarily need to be around you. And I say that because you can have people around you and they may be helping you. They may be, doing things for you to help you get to that next point. But are they really there? Are they really there for you? Are they really looking out for you? Never be afraid to ask somebody who is close to you why they're there. You will find a whole lot out very quickly, because when you don't have the right people around you in the beginning, your start in building your legacy and building your franchise will be weak, because you're going to spend so much time doing damage control and trying to audit your circle that you're not doing what you're meant to do and serving who you're meant to serve. So the third thing about seeing yourself as a franchise is being willing to invest time, money, and effort into becoming a strong franchise. Stop expecting everything to be free and cheap. Every price is not meant to be haggled. You're not buying a car. And I can understand how many of us have a DIY mentality, but there's going to be a time when you're going to need that extra set of eyes. There's going to be a time when you hit a wall. But the thing about it is, we are so caught up in the wrong facet of us, if you will, that we spend more time saying, I might need it, but I'm not paying for it. And we will end up missing out on what we need, because the person that we need, they're not going to back down and cheapen themselves to help us, as we shouldn't for others. So that is something to think about. Good gracious. I think I'm only going to get through like 3 of these, but that's okay. The second part, so first thing we said was a franchise sees itself as such. The second thing that I want to talk about is that a franchise does not fall victim to comparisons. If you have followed me for any length of time, one thing that I always say is just because somebody does what you do does not mean that they do what you do. And you may say, Tammy, that doesn't make sense. Let me help you. How many different burger joints can you name? There are a lot of them out there, right? But think about it like this. They all make the same thing. Burgers. But there are many differences. They don't use the same grade of beef. The buns are different. The method of cooking is different. Some of them have more options when it comes to cheese. The meat is seasoned differently. The size is different. The shape of the patty might be different. And of course, the price is going to be different. You're not going to get the same burger at McDonald's that you get at Backyard Burger. However, neither one of those restaurants are shutting down because there's a new kid on the block. They know that their customer base is going to stick with them because they may try it, but they may not like it. And so that will bring them back. And then on the other hand, we have the philosophy of variety being the spice of life. And there will be times where people will leave the stuff that they're loyal to because their needs, their wants, their likes, their diet, anything will change. But they will still support you in some way. So instead of being like, oh man, there's another chick out there doing the same kind of business that I am, focus on what makes you rare and special. As y'all have heard me say many times, you have to realize that you have something rare and precious to offer this world, even in the wake of perceived or real competition. Burger King is not going to shut McDonald's down. McDonald's has been around longer. Baskin Robbins ain't really all that worried about Ben and Jerry's or TCBY. So why do we spend so much time comparing ourselves to other people? And one thing that I will say is this. When I wrote my book, The Virtuous Businesswoman, inspired by Proverbs 31, I did not start to see books like mine until after I wrote it. And even though I started to see those other books, I didn't take mine down off the shelf because somebody else wrote about Proverbs 31 from an entrepreneurial standpoint. I knew that the words that God had put in me to share with the world was still just as important. Let me move on, because I can talk about not comparing yourself to other people for a very long time. So we have talked about, first, a franchise seeing itself as such. Realize that you are a franchise. The second thing, a franchise does not fall victim to comparisons. You are rare, you are special, you are unique. The third thing that I want to talk about is that a franchise works hard. Hard work and consistency is what is going to strengthen us in our lives. There are some things that are not going to come to us without hard work. And I'll just go ahead and throw this out here. Being consistent in lean times is not always easy, but you have to keep going, because your world is going to get shaken once or twice, 3 or 4 times. So you have to learn to revise, revamp, refocus, change what's needed, and move on. Does that mean that you will have to cut some things out in order to stay afloat? Yes, but be smart about what it is that you eliminate. Does that mean you'll have to bite the bullet and get rid of dead weight, people, places, and things that are no longer serving you, so that you can do more, do better, and be greater? Yes. You cannot bring yourself down by constantly carrying and pushing people who don't want to move forward in their lives. You cannot hang on to them. They are going to bury you. Does this mean that you will actually have to spend money to invest in that person, place, or thing that you swore that you didn't need, but now you realize that you do? Yep. And be ready to get mad because the price went up. Get ready for that person to say to you, I told you so, because it's coming. It's not about the flack that you get, because at the end of the day, it is about you strengthening yourself. It's about you strengthening the franchise. Does this mean that you will have to do things that you don't like to do? Yes, it does. However, in the end, you will be happy that you did those things, that you took the plunge, you learned how to do it, and it enabled you to get things done. Because one thing that you have to understand is that in doing so, you might find out that the cause of the problem that you're having is not what you thought it was. Working smarter and not harder is not always going to be possible. Technology fails, people quit, debit cards go down. And one thing that I asked somebody recently, I said this, I asked them a series of questions because they are so tied to technology that if their internet connection goes down, they have a panic attack. So I asked them this: if you had to, do you know how to write a check? Do you know how to get money out of your account without using an ATM? Do you have savings enough to protect your income if things go south? And while these things might seem trivial, there will be times that you have to handle business that way. It happened to me last week. I had to go to court for a ticket. They couldn't take my debit card because their machine wouldn't recognize any debit card that required a PIN number. And so she said, "Do you have any other method of payment?" I don't carry cash, but I had my checkbook. And I said, "Can I write a check?" And she said, "Yes, ma'am. We just need your phone number, your driver's license, put this in the memo section, and make it out to, the city of Memphis." So I was still able to handle business, even though there was an ATM in the building. I didn't want to lose my place in line, for one. So I stood there and I wrote the check. You have to have a plan B for certain things. And now sometimes when people will tell you, oh, having a plan B means that you don't trust yourself, that you don't trust God. That's not always the case. That's not always the case. You need to know where you can get what you need when your go-tos aren't available. I'm going to have to cut it off right there. I know, guys, I'm so sorry. I feel absolutely terrible. But we are going to get back to it and get through all 12 of these, however many shows that it takes. Again, this is Tammy Pope, the host of the Virtuous Businesswoman Motivational Broadcast. As always, I would like to thank a couple of special people that I try to thank at the end of every broadcast. Kayla, my angel, I love you so much. Love you bunches and oodles. Still praying for you and just your continued success in everything that you do. To my dear friend Nicole Gates, who lovingly bullied me into applying for this radio spot a year ago. Thank you so much for staying on me about it and supporting me. And as always, God bless, Godspeed in all that you do. Keep charging, and happy Friday Eve. See you guys in September.